Hi everyone. It's uh, it's one of those days where it's one of those days where we all grieve. We never stop grieving on this day. It's You try to banish things out of your mind. You really do. You try to banish them. You try to banish some parts of what's gone wrong on a specific date. You know, we lose parents, and you never forget that day. You never forget bad news. And the point is, this particular date, the 15th of April, and going back to 1989, when lads went and girls to a game of football. 96 didn't come back, but one came back, another one, who never fully recovered. And he became the 97th. And it gets everyone. It gets all us Liverpool supporters. We all suffer on this day. We all suffer. And there was a video made, and it was a cracking video. And it's called Scouse, Not English. Simply because of a cover up by the establishment. The establishment. Blaming the Liverpool fans. And that newspaper and the editor mention, isn't it? Because I won't mention the rag's name. Kelvin Mackenzie, the editor, allowed a front page headline to be printed. Even the reporter, the journalist at the time, said in some documentary, that he told Mackenzie, don't print that, that's wrong. But he went ahead. And the rag did not apologise, even when the fans were exonerated. He didn't put a front page headline saying, we apologise, we're sorry to every Liverpool supporter. and the city slaring us, demonising us. But we fought back. We won. We won. They took on the wrong city, the wrong people. I just want to thank the city of Liverpool, every citizen, all the families, all the survivors, every Liverpool fan who stuck together, every fan from far and wide who stayed with us, who supported us. Give me a minute, will you, please? Please, give me a minute. I don't think I'll be able. I'm sorry. I don't think I'll be able to read out any comments. I won't. Any comments? I'm sorry, because I'll just get to it. Because you're all lovely people. But I have a smashing guest on, besides my regular guest, Anthony Brown. And I know he's upset. I know he's upset. But I have a great guest on, a lad who came to me and made a video. Scouse, not English. He's a wonderful man. And the video he made was exceptional. So I have him on. Oh, my nerves are shattered. Just bear with me a minute. I've been sitting here all day on my own. And I've just got to thank tonight. I'm doing this. I'm sorry to bring all emotion. I really am. I'm sorry about this as well. I'm useless at all this, you know. Here I am. See how bright I am. Still useless. Anyway, let's get the very first guest on. Let's get Anthony on, and we'll wait for Tieran to come on. And there he is. I'm going to try and read your comments. You've been good enough to. I'm going to try and read them. looking forward to this is Roll Me One Up, Fat Boy. A friend of mine from different pods, DW, a good lad. He's, we're in these political things, and he thinks like me. Evening, Frank, Tieran, Anthony, and live chat. And really Scouser, big up Frank and chat. Hope you're all well and had a great day. Beautiful tribute, Frank. Thank you. 97 beautiful angels in the sky. And John. He says, justice for the 97. As I said, I've got this wonderful lad. He came to my home, and it wasn't long after I had a very serious operation. And he was a lovely fella, still is. I don't mean it in past tense. Such a lovely man. And he set up everything in my home. And he said, just give your account of the history of Liverpool, some parts of it. And he allowed me. I don't think he edited anything. He just, when he put it together, he just, what you're seeing, he filmed. And he put Liverpool in a fantastic light with his drone. Wow. Unbelievable. I'm going to bring on Anthony first and just say hello to him and the great man Tieran himself. Because I know Anthony would like to ask him a couple of questions too. And there he is. Anthony, okay?
Hi, Frank. Yeah. Good evening. Good evening, everyone. Yeah.
I'm going to bring this man in now. He's only a young fella. And there he is. I'm just going to bring him in here. And what a lad this fella is.
Hi, guys.
Hiya, Tieran. You okay?
Yeah, I'm good. It's very good to see you after so long.
Yeah, listen, Tieran, there's been well over 500,000 views of Scouse Not English.
Yeah.
And the comments.
It did. It seemed to have resonated with a lot of people, I think. And you did a really good job, obviously, taking people through the history of Liverpool, especially the last 100 years. But yeah, it's been amazing to see how it's resonated with so many people. And I've read through loads of those comments. I'm sure you have as well.
Yeah, I didn't even know. Someone told me, to be honest. He said, have you read these comments? And I went, really? What comments? And he said, it's just have a look at the comments. So anyway, I went along it and bang, I went on the comments and lovely, Did it surprise you, really? Do you know when you were editing it, you were just, obviously you edited it. And did it surprise you how beautiful Liverpool is?
Yeah, well, so I got to say, I'm from the southeast of England, and I'd never been to Liverpool before. I didn't know. It's a shame to say that I didn't actually know much about the country at all outside of the southeast of England. It's where I've always been. I never travelled much around other parts of the country. So that trip in general, the one that we met when we met, was a really amazing opportunity to see so much of the country. And with Liverpool, yeah, you kind of hear all these stereotypes about the city, unfair stereotypes that you point out in the video, and a lot of the time it's from people who've actually never been to Liverpool, but you hear them so much that a lot of people who haven't been develop this idea of what they think Liverpool is going to be like, and then when you actually go and see how welcoming everyone was, that really blew me away. How like the warmth and the friendliness of people, and also some of like the architecture was stunning, absolutely stunning. So all of that really blew me away, and I wasn't expecting it at all. Even though I try not to. You try not to pay attention to stereotypes in general, because as a rule, but they still subconsciously, if you hear them enough times, they'll affect you. So yeah, it was an amazing experience to go to Liverpool and to meet you and to hear about so much of the history from you. But yeah, it was amazing.
And you know what though, Tieran, what we do, today we celebrate. Well, we don't celebrate really.
Yeah. Commiserate.
The 97 and Hillsborough.
Yeah.
And it was brilliant the way you actually portrayed, the way the fans feel against the establishment. That was wonderful, that. And then, I tried to explain why the newspaper is banned in Liverpool, because they were all lies. Yeah. And that was the only way to get at the establishment for what they did. They turned their backs on everybody. They turned their backs on 97 people who died.
Yeah, and it's really, I mean, one of the things I found that when we spoke about that, because it's 35 years, isn't it, to today? Is that right? Yeah. And when we spoke about that, or at least having then gone home and spoken to friends, family, that kind of stuff, a lot of people, like you say in the video, a lot of people still have this idea that this blame placed on the fans because of how it was reported in the media, and all of that was totally built on these negative stereotypes that people had about Liverpool. It's the only way that the lies and stuff were able to work, really. So, I mean, that was shocking, and I'm glad that you thought I did a good job portraying that in the video. I mean, a lot of it was you. You explained everything very well. So,
but no, you've got to. I take my hat off to you because I didn't know how that was going to turn out, and I got the shock of my life. I'm being honest. I thought, wow, even the very beginning, how he was portraying Liverpool, the beauty of Liverpool, the beauty of the waterfront, everything. And then you were on your bike again.
Yeah, well, it's a pretty it's a niche way of exploring a place on the bicycle, I have to say. But those drone shots at the beginning, it's such a beautiful waterfront. It's definitely. I haven't actually been back to the city since then, but I definitely plan to.
Are you planning to come down?
Of course, and I'll let you know when I'm there.
Of course. It'll be nice to catch up. And,
definitely.
Have a cup of tea, not coffee, cup of tea.
Yeah, agreed.
I want to introduce you to Anthony Brown. He's an international artist, and I keep saying this. He's the only artist in the world. Even Michelangelo and Da Vinci or anyone, Matisse, anybody, didn't have 100 paintings in one exhibition. And this is the only man, and it's Anthony Brown. And I suppose he'd like to ask you a couple of questions also, Anthony.
Sure. Hi, Anthony.
Tieran, I'd just like to say I thoroughly, absolutely enjoyed your film, your footage. Frank had tipped me off a long time ago that you'd done it, and I checked it out, and I like Frank said, and I'd like to echo, it's an absolutely remarkable thing for us to listen to an outside of the city perspective of what we've lived through. I mean, history in Liverpool has taught us many things, and it's kind of toughened our skin, and that's where we became from. And obviously, Hillsborough today is the most emotive and closest in history to the way the city is. And you did such a respectful job in the film, and I think Frank has echoed that today. And for me personally, because we lost my cousin in the catastrophe, whatever we want to call it. But as a family, it's not an anniversary we particularly look forward to. But having said that, you painted a picture to the outside of Liverpool, factual information, and a view of the city that not many people have bothered to portray. No, and it seems to be our voice against the world until Frank said to me, check this out. No, Tieran's done this amazing film. And it is amazing. And thank you. And I thank you from my family and my kids and Lainey, who've all seen the film, love it. And also on the wider scale, we know that the people of Liverpool would love it.
I'm so glad. Thank you for saying that. I'm so glad to hear that. And I, like I said, seeing people, I mean, in the comments, it's obviously resonated with a lot of people, and to hear it from you guys is really special. So I really appreciate that.
Yeah.
Well, listen, Tieran, you know, you did this about Liverpool. Obviously, you've done other cities or villages and towns or whatever. Can you give us a little bit more of an insight into what else, where else you've been? I know that at the beginning, you were coming from Wales, then you came into Merseyside, Liverpool, Merseyside.
Yeah, I guess we met probably on it was the second series I'd done. So I have that video, the video about Liverpool, is part of a series where I cycle around different parts of the world and find stories, basically. And the focus is often on identity. And that can be anything from national, regional, religious, anything to do with identity and culture. Hence why Liverpool was obviously a very fascinating place to go. And since then, I cycled on that trip. I went to north of England, around kind of almost a loop of the island of Ireland, the Isle of Man, finished up in Shetland, and went through Scotland as well. And that was the sort of UK Isle of Man tour. But most recently, I got back from Israel, Palestine, Jordan, and Saudi Arabia, which was the last project. So I got back in last May before before that, the war in Gaza, and I'm working on that now, editing all those videos together. So I found, again, it was just documenting stories along the way. A crazy experience in that part of the world, but all of these trips are a crazy experience at the end of the day, doing it on a bicycle.
Did you ever get, like where you've just been to the Middle East?
Yeah.
Right. And there's always been conflict there for years. No matter what, or no matter what country you visit, there's always seems to be a conflict. It's a historical thing. It's gone on for thousands of years, not just now. Did you feel intimidated at all while you were filming?
Yeah. There's a few. So I obviously did as much research as I could before going to that part of the world, but there's only so much that Googling can teach you before you actually end up there, especially if you're doing it on a bike, because not many people cycle around that part of the world. So yeah, intimidating. I mean, I got a lot of warnings from people not to do it because it was too sketchy. But I did find that, I mean, I got a lot of warnings in particular about the West Bank. But when I actually got there, yeah, I did have a few sketchy experiences, but on the whole, and the same with everywhere that I've cycled, most people are good people, are there to help you. Again, there's a lot of negative stereotypes about people from certain parts of the world that when you actually go there, you find out that they're nonsense, most of the stereotypes. I mean, the ones that really fit, again, were that I just experienced incredible hospitality while I was there. So I'd say I felt intimidated before I went, but once you actually throw yourself into it, even in the moments where it's sketchy, you don't really have time to feel intimidated. You just have to respond to whatever's happening around you.
Well, that's the point, isn't it? You know, no matter where you go, and you are told. And if you said to me, I'm being honest, if you said to me, I think I'm going over to the Middle East, I'm going around here and there, and I would have just said, are you mad? You know?
Well, it was a crazy thing, even just from the physical conditions, right? Like crossing the Saudi desert was a pretty physically was a pretty intense experience. Getting across sort of the interior to Riyadh. But because of all the people that I met along the way, even when you get into trouble, whether that be, you know, running out of water in the middle of the desert, or maybe someone, an attempted robbery or something like that, which didn't happen in Saudi, but you always have people nearby that are happy to help you out if something goes wrong. And that's been a common theme through all of the trips, is the people along the way have been so kind and hospitable that even when you're in a place that, you know, people have warned you about, you still feel like you have some kind of safety net almost to fall back on, which is really nice.
I'll tell you what, though, it would have been ironic if you would have run out of petrol in the desert, wouldn't it?
Well, there was a couple of times where I came pretty close to running out of water. But then it's eventually someone came past and gave me some. So, but it was a fascinating trip. Again, a lot of misconceptions, misrepresentations for better and worse in the media about that part of the world. I mean, Saudi Arabia is a very, very misunderstood place, and again, it's been a pretty closed country for a long time, and in some ways it's misunderstood for the better, in some ways for the worse. But it's just like actually going there and speaking to people that live in these places and sort of documenting the experience. I think it gives you a much fuller understanding of the world. That's always been my philosophy behind the projects.
Have you got anything else in the future, you know, what you want to really go and film or whatever?
Yeah. So next year I'll be heading to Japan, South Korea, and Taiwan. That's the next series, and it's same again, meeting people across those countries and interviewing them. And that's the main. I mean, that's the one I'm thinking about at the moment. Obviously, I've got all this editing to do for the Middle East series, but I mean, where it all really started. It's funny because that Liverpool video was one of the first ones on my channel to like take off and do well in a way. There are a couple that started doing okay, and the Liverpool one was one of them. So looking back on it, it's sort of that trip is where all this started, really. Like, so it's taken me from Liverpool to Medina and Saudi Arabia, and now to Japan.
Wow, that's incredible. Has any big like history program or whatever, any documentary programs that approached you to show
I've had it. I mean, I have
visual?
so I have a long-term sort of collaboration with this Norwegian media platform, and when we met, that was my main, and still is my main thing. Because really, when we met, my YouTube channel was tiny. I mean, it's still small, but it's doing a little bit better now. Yeah, people will sometimes. I get messages occasionally from various, a journalist here or whatever, but I've never been approached by a big network or anything, but there is still time. Fingers crossed.
Well, that's the beauty of travel as well. You meet different people, so one thing kind of overlaps to another without you noticing, I guess. But I take my hat off to you with the Saudi visit, because really, I mean, we're unhealthy as it may be, we are all governed by what we see on TV or what appears in the news, whether it be horrific governmental decisions or just famine or whatever sweeps the world. I take my hat off to you that you travel and you're young and you do it, and I think you will be rewarded wherever you go. I think you seem to be the kind of person that will find something beautiful in anywhere you go, and that's to be applauded.
Thank you very much. And it's interesting you mentioned that. I mean, because I agree. You see these things in the media, and actually a lot of them, there's a lot of truth to how some of these governments do things, and then you're sort of left with when it comes to going to a place like that, there's an ethical question, isn't there, over if you're going somewhere and you're economically supporting a regime or a system or something that you don't morally align with.
Yeah.
But then there's some sort of trade-off, I think, with you're kind of helping with some cultural, if you're going to document it journalistically, it's that kind of cultural exchange.
That experience as well, I guess. That for you know yourself that the things that will touch you are what you experience yourself, rather than what you read in someone else's book or whatever.
Yeah.
I was offered about 8 years ago. I was offered a chance to go to Saudi and do some work, a series of portraits, which would have been fairly high profile.
Wow.
But at the time, there was a lot of moral issues with me, because that's what blocked me going. And I didn't feel comfortable going. And the chap who was looking after me, manager at the time, felt the same. So we didn't do it.
Well, there you go. That's case in point. And I think, I mean, what year was that you?
That was about 8 years ago. So we're back in
2015 or something like that.
Something like that, yeah. 14, 15, yeah.
Wow. I mean, yeah, I think that those I think a lot of people would agree with you that was probably the right call, to be honest, especially then. There's and to be honest, there's such a long list of things that the government that a lot of those governments have done that are
a strange thing. We and I get similar thing from yourself. The stuff we do in life for passion, we want to do it, and obviously we somewhere down the line we have to earn money. But I've never been monetary minded, so it wasn't a case of that. Okay, put another £50 on the bill or £4,000 on the bill, and I'll do it. It was just something I felt uncomfortable, and yet I know Frank is the same, and I'm guessing yourself. We do things for nothing because we feel someone's got to do it, and if no one else is going to do it, then we do and put it out there. So I got what you said before about trade-off. Life is a trade-off, isn't it? What we do, and I hope you.
I think you're right there, because when Tieran came, introduced himself, and he just says, would you give the history of Liverpool, in your own words? There was no script. There was no
broad question, wasn't it?
yeah, and it was as simple as that. I'm going to say too, can I just read out a couple of comments, please?
Yeah.
And Dorothy Langham, it's a lovely woman, Langham. Liverpool, friendliest city in the world. Ask for directions and they'll not only tell you, they'll take you by the hand. Isn't that lovely? And Gary Rigby. There's been loads of things on YouTube about Liverpool lately, and this is because of you, Not only you, but, the people. Don't forget, well over 500,000 people have looked at your... It's incredible.
It's crazy.
I tell you what, if only 20 looked at it, I'd be delighted. Over 500,000. It knocked me out, That knocked me out when I realised, how many people. And it says, Liverpool lately, social media is slowly changing. And he goes on, and before he said that, even in everyone interesting subjects, and I'm forever arguing in YouTube comments with people who slag Liverpool off. It's always the ones. It's only what you said, Tieran, who've never been here, and they've never been here.
Yeah.
Can I tell you something? This is true. I go to Italy quite a lot. And I always went to that. I never ever went in the Colosseum, although I know the history of the Colosseum. So I'm standing outside because she wanted to go in, you see. Me ex, she said, shall we go in? I said, oh, all right then. So I'm standing in a queue. And a few people up from me, there was a Swedish couple. And they was talking about, and I heard the name Liverpool. And they said, we get off a train in Liverpool and we walks out. Now, don't forget, we're in Rome here, the middle of Rome, the Colosseum. And she said, the lady it was, who was talking to another couple. And she said, when we stepped out of the train station, I forget the name of it now, we looked over. And you think that we'd be in the middle of Rome. That's what she said. The lady said. And her husband, obviously, assumes her husband, he nodded and said, and the couple said, oh, we've never been to Liverpool. We've only ever flew to Scotland, but we never go that far. It's only like what you said, Tieran, right? So they said, what building? What kind of, can you describe the building? So I walked up to them and I said, excuse me, I introduced myself. And I said about the building, St. George's Hall. And it was incredible. Can I show you this? Funny enough, I'll just show you this.
I remember that.
St. George's Hall. And, when they came out of the station, that's what they seen. That was the first thing they seen. So you can imagine what, these people said. And me, they said, oh, we wouldn't mind seeing that. This is Swedish. Make you laugh, I think. So what had happened, I said, listen, if you ever come to Liverpool, and I gave them my number, gave them my mobile number and my landline at the time. And my name, obviously. I never had a card on me. You don't bring a card on your holiday. So I said, hey, just give me a ring if you ever come to Liverpool. Fatal. few months later, I get a ring at 5:05 in the morning. Took a night train up one weekend and said, "Hello, remember us?" And they were from Winchester. So I went down. I met them. I said, "Just go and have a coffee. See a place is open." She said, "Oh no, we're coming into Liverpool in the next half hour." So I said, "Okay." I said, "I'll be there. Just go into Cafe Nero or whatever, the nearest coffee shop, and I'll come in and see you." And I took them around, and they were delighted. I just took them around. I said, "There's that building," and they were in awe. And anyway, after I took them around, they said to me, "We'll be back here, and we'll be back with friends." And they kept to the words. They kept to the word. They came back with friends for a weekend because they only came up for a day. And I took them around and said goodbye, and they did, because I got a message off them saying, "We're here with our friends." I couldn't take them out, unfortunately. I was busy. And I said, "Well, good luck. You know where to go and whatever." And they said we just thoroughly enjoyed ourselves. So that's what it's like. And as Dorothy said,
Well, I was going to mention on. Sorry to interrupt. I was just going to mention Dorothy's comment because she mentioned something about asking for directions there, and it's funny that she mentions that because the thing that was very quickly stood out when we got to Liverpool was whenever there were several different occasions where I guess I'd stop to check my phone while on the bike. And I actually hadn't gone up and asked anyone for directions, but someone had just seen me looking a little bit confused and had come over and had said like, "Oh, are you okay? Are you lost? Do you need any help or anything?" And having someone come up to you and offer that without even asking is something that I hadn't really experienced in any other city in England, I would say. I mean, obviously, like I said, I hadn't actually traveled much in England, but definitely not down in the southeast where everyone's a little bit more reserved and keeps to themselves. So immediately you sort of felt like all these strangers that you've never met sort of have your back a little bit as a visitor, which is really nice.
Fantastic.
It was really nice. It was brilliant. And, as Dorothy says, Liverpool, the friendliest city in the world. Ask for directions and they'll not only tell you, they'll take you by the hand. When we were going in for the Capital of Culture of 2008, this what happened. Have you ever heard of her? She was an Olympian javelinist. And this girl, Tessa Sanderson, her name was. Is it Tessa Sanderson? Yes. Anyway, she's one of the judges of, this group of people going around different cities who put in the bid to be European Capital of Culture of 2008. And here's what happens. She gets out of Lime Street Station. She stands and she's looking, she's trying to get a taxi, but she's looking around and this couple stop. And they said, "You're okay?" She said, "Oh, yeah, I just need," she said, "I need to get," and she mentioned it, I don't know the hotel, but they mentioned this hotel that she had to get to for 12 o'clock. This was around just after 11 o'clock in the morning. And the taxi driver pulls up because they were pointing, you know what I mean? They were pointing where to go. And this taxi driver pulls up and said, "Can I help you there?" And the couple said, "This lady wants to get to such a hotel and she's going to be late. She really needs to be there for lunchtime." And he went like, "Jump in." This is Tessa Sanderson, an Olympic javelinist. And she goes in and he takes her down. He said, "Here, sweetheart, there's your hotel." And she said, "How much do I?" He said, "Just leave it. Have it on us. Good luck."
Wow. That's amazing. But that's the thing. It's like there's really not. I can't think of another time I've arrived in a city in this part of the world and been immediately noticed that so quickly. It's very interesting. I always wonder. I mean, I always wonder kind of like where that comes from in Liverpool, like specifically where the warmth and friendliness comes from.
I'll tell you.
Yeah.
I'll tell you. Do you want me to tell you?
Yeah, go on. It's your show.
No. It's only, you know, it's
no. That's I was asking. It's just really interesting.
The thing is, you see, a lovely lady, I don't know the girl's name, and they were asking for their comments, you know, like a sort of a logo, you know, for the capital of culture. And this lady, I think it's one of the great ones. It's the Wales in one city. The Wales, you know, Liverpool, the Wales in one city, and that's how it is. Now, how we get our particular, shall we say, warmth is a mixture of people. And the mixture of people predominantly are the Irish, the Italians, and the Welsh, believe it or not. Because we have a little few Welsh things, sayings, you know, like we call our mum, you know, man. That's the Welsh too. You know what I mean? And they had a massive Welsh community here in 1840. And they even printed their own money. They couldn't speak English at all. But nevertheless, it's the Italians and the Irish. Because when the Irish are very sincere, honest people. And so are the Italians. And they joined forces. Because a lot of Italians married into both the Irish and, you know, the Irish married into the Italians as well. So this is how Liverpool generated. This is how Liverpool, you know, became a very friendly city, because we seen the way migrants were coming into Liverpool. So we sort of, don't get me wrong, there was an element of criminals, you know, who attacked the migrants, especially during the 19th century, you know, trying to steal what they could off them as they were emigrating, you know, over to America. So Liverpool, and we get our nasal, we're a very nasally city, you know, we speak like that, you know, through the nose. And we get that, believe it or not, from the Norwegians.
I remember you mentioning that because I'm half Norwegian myself, so that stuck with me.
There you go, and it's the Norwegians. So we had a massive Norwegian community here. We had a Japanese community here, a Japanese, because they came up to see how the Northern Hemisphere, you know, wailed, because this fella, Daniel Brocklebank, came over in 1774. He got the Norwegians because the Norwegians were whalers, and then he said, you know, then it was incredible, you know, that we were going after Wales, and Wales was actually being dragged into the River Mersey. And people go, you what? Yeah, of course. It was incredible. But that's how we get the warmth and everything else, because we do look after people. We try to look after people. And we're a socialist city as well. And this is why, you know, we all stick together. This is why we stick together, especially on a day like today. And the way you portrayed Wembley and the fans, you know, I was delighted with that. I didn't think you'd do that, to be honest, but you did it nevertheless, and it was beautiful. And I just thank you from the bottom of my heart, especially on a day like today.
No, I appreciate that a lot, and I'm really glad that seeing it resonate with so many people, and there's a certain responsibility as well when you make a video talking about a topic like that. you really want to do it justice. And so it's great to hear that you felt that it did.
Oh yes, oh yeah, it did. Didn't it, Anthony? We felt it, didn't we? We felt it. Just before you answer that, listen to this. This is a cracker, this, and it's from fancy different. Roll me one up, fat boy. And he says, as Jerry said, ferry crossed the Mersey, but Tieran said, bike ride across the Mersey.
Bike rides across the globe.
Yeah, absolutely. And I just.
Do you think so? There's obviously a certain amount. I was actually wondering about this. This you have to, in a video that's only what 20 minutes ish. There's only so much depth that you can go into. So I was kind of curious if you thought that I missed anything in that video.
Yeah. No, you put everything in perspective. Go on.
All I would say is that it's an education to those who've never been to Liverpool, but it's equal education to those who live in Liverpool and have missed those key historic pointers. As people do, people who don't follow football, who for one reason or another are not aware of the city. I mean, Frank is a master at this. We'll do a show and then people say, I didn't know that about such a place. We don't, we're fairly ignorant of our own cities. And I'm not just saying Liverpool, I'm talking about probably global, but what you showed there was a really accessible history that everyone can understand and go take further if they wanted to, read up.
Yeah.
And that's why all the, the over 500,000 people viewed, and people from all over was coming.
Yeah. Have you had anyone contact you about any of that?
No, they don't know we phoned them.
Oh yeah, true. I can't remember how I got your phone number in the end, because I managed to track you down through. I tracked you down through another YouTube video where someone else had interviewed you, and I think it just had your name on there, and I was like, this guy knows what he's talking about. I need to find this man. I can't remember where your phone number was, but I did manage to get it somehow.
No, I know. And when you rang me up, this fella,
Yeah, telling you that he's cycling around.
Yeah, when I met you, I thought, hello. And when we had a little chat, and you just said, that was it. I was ill at the time. I'd just come out of hospital. Didn't tell you that, did I?
I remember you saying you'd been unwell a while, but I didn't know it was so soon after, though.
Yeah. It was. I had a triple repair aneurysm. I just come out, but never. It was great. It really was meeting you. What you just said, as I said, at the beginning. There was no script. There was none of this like, oh, can you talk about this? Can you talk about that? It was just straightforward. I gave you some idea, obviously, of the likes of the whaling, for example, and the Scouse cuisine, the culture of the Scouse. And, so I did that for you. It was just remarkable. And it showed people. At least it showed 500,000 people, over 500,000 people, what Liverpool was like.
Yeah. And it's I did in the comments as well. There's a lot of very interesting conversations happening between people, like having conversations with each other, sometimes debates. I mean, I actually saw mentioning the Scouse and Lob Scouse. I saw a really wholesome comment thread that of everything to sort of take away from that video. This one particular comment thread was just people comparing their family people from different parts of the world comparing their family Scouse recipes. Like, oh, this is how my aunt made it. This is how my grandmother made it. Whatever. This is how my dad makes it. It was.
Well, that's fantastic. I did a documentary for BBC Two, and it was about. It was all around the country. You know, they were going to different parts of the country. And it was about the Second World War and what kind of, what kind of foods were they eating during the rationing of the Second World War. So anyway, they came here, they were interviewing me. And I was telling them about the Scouse and the blind Scouse. They said, "What's blind Scouse?" I said, "Well, you added no meat. You just had like a stew, but there was no meat in it, so it was called blind Scouse because they couldn't get meat." Anyway, and there's what happened. I was standing next to this. It started to lash down. The camera was way over there, so we got into this like doorway sort of thing. Me and the chef, he's all in his chef gear, with a spoon as well. Anyway, we just sees this fella walking across, slashing down, walking across like that, not walking slowly, but walking, pretty quickly. And I said to the chef, I said, "He looks like Rod Stewart." And he went, "He does, doesn't he?" Anyway, apparently it was Rod Stewart.
No way.
And he was going through. It's just nuts what you see on on the location. But, can I just read out a couple of, this chap, TW, is a friend of mine. "I came down to Liverpool in '96 to get an emergency passport, landed in the old coach station and made my way to Lime Street Station. As an ATL ex-army rucksack and a guitar case. I was looked after overnight by a ragtag collection of pretty much down and out lads. They were great." That sums up everything, Tieran, about Liverpool.
That's very true. It's very true.
What we're going to do now, we're going to show a clip of what Tieran did. I hope you don't mind.
Yeah, no, that's fine.
Would you advise, Anthony, for people who haven't seen Scouse Not English, why Liverpool is different from the rest of the country? Would you advise them to see it?
Is that a question for me or for Anthony? Was that Anthony?
Anthony, can you hear me?
Yeah, I've seen the film, and I think it's brilliant. And
would you advise other people who haven't seen it to watch it?
Absolutely, and I do, and I will eternally do. Yeah, because Tieran, there's nothing like it out there. There's films by Scouse for the world, but we occasionally feel like we're talking.
We're isolated. We get isolated. That's what it is. We get isolated, and what they like doing is going to the. I always remember a BBC report, and I'm going back a few years ago, and they were talking about the Mersey, and I couldn't believe where they were filmed it from. And you never seen the Mersey, but they was filming, and in the background were these houses that were being demolished. They were actually being demolished, but you see no cranes or bulldozers there. It's just like these houses, and it was shocking. Because if people were watching that, and he's talking about the River Mersey, they're looking at the background, and what's that on? Or is this all the in your Liverpool slums sort of thing?
Yeah. Well, this is the problem as well. Certainly, with a lot of footage that goes up on YouTube and now TikTok and social media is old Liverpool, which has no background to it. No one's talking about it. There's just photos, like Frank said, demolition there. And we know that these are bomb sites, these are war sites and stuff, but nothing. So it's a bit like copy and paste. And there's so many people doing it, and it's not at all attached to the heart of Liverpool. It needs a dialogue, and that's why your film was so important and is so important. Yeah,
well, there's a clip now. I think Jason's like that. Here's a clip of it, and we'll see us after the break.
Brilliant.
Say this city's name almost anywhere in the world, and people will recognise it. Whether that's for its football,
Fabinho's got some space, he's got 3 up there with him, and he squeezes it through the legs!
its rich history, or the music that was born here. Because as British cities go, few are more iconic than Liverpool.
The friendliness of people here has really taken me back.
From the welcoming nature of the people here to their unique accents, Liverpool feels different. Some Scousers, as people from Liverpool are called, think of it a bit like a city-state, separate from the rest of the country. And many don't identify with England at all, displaying banners like Scouse not English. Liverpool fans have even been known to boo the British national anthem at football games. So what's this divide all about, and why has Liverpool ended up so different from the rest of the country? We were here to find out. Of all the cities in England, Liverpool in particular is known for doing things its own way. There's even a unique name for people from Liverpool: Scousers or Scouse. Why? Well, the story begins with whalers, who came to Liverpool in the 17 and 1800s.
So the only people who could do whaling around Europe were the Norwegians. So we sent for a crew of Norwegian sailors to come over and go up to the Arctic. Obviously there was a Liverpool crew as well, and they joined the ships as well. And these lads, to keep warm, they had their own meal, and they used to have a fire, and they used to put meat, they used to put potatoes, they used to put carrots, and it was called lobscouse. So the Liverpool lads, when everything dies down and they joined other ships, and they started to make this lobscouse, just like the Norwegians did. So when people from around the world met sailors, they said, "Where are you from?" And they said, "Liverpool." They go, Scouse.
Back then, Liverpool was a booming trading port. So important that it was sometimes referred to as the New York of Europe.
When you look back, Liverpool, it was incredible. It was an incredible port with lots of activity. Liverpool was known as the second city of the empire, obviously behind the capital London, because of the trade. There was immense trade, and it was incredible.
The bustling docks produced the unique Scouse accent you'll hear if you visit today. It's unlike any other in the UK, and was a result of the melting pot that this city became, where people from all over the world with different ways of speaking mixed together. And it's most influenced by Irish, Welsh, and Norwegian immigrants. Nowadays, though, Liverpool has an unfair but pretty bad reputation, and people often joke about it being a lawless and dirty city.
Watch your bags. Don't go to Liverpool, they steal your hubcaps or your wheels or whatever. And this is the way Liverpool are portrayed. Unfortunately, Scousers. Why are you going to Liverpool? You end up being beaten up and you're being burgled and being... They always get looked down upon. Always get looked down upon by the press, the English press, unfortunately. For some reason, we don't know. You know, we're looked at down the noses, you know, especially accents. And
Frank often has to battle people's preconceptions about him that are based purely on the way he speaks and where he's from.
When I tell them I'm a lecturer, they don't believe me, simply because of my accent. It's gone now that it's water off a duck's back to me. It's the way it is. It's just the way people perceive Liverpool. Liverpool's got a terrible image, even today.
In reality, the problems that any major city faces, crime, litter, and so on, are no worse here than anywhere else. So how did Liverpool go from being the second city of the British Empire to one that has so often been looked down upon by other parts of Britain, where so many of its residents feel Scouse rather than English? Well, Liverpool has always been a bit independent. Part of that can be put down to immigration, particularly from Ireland following the Irish famines in the 17 and 1800s, which really changed the demographics here. At one point in the 1950s, a quarter of Liverpool's population was Irish-born. It also has such a large Welsh population that it's sometimes jokingly called the capital of North Wales. All these people from different places, some with less than stellar opinions of the rest of England because of tension between the English and Irish and Welsh, gave the city a distinct sense of self. But it was the 1900s that really drove a wedge between Liverpool and the rest of England. And it began with a general strike.
So in 1911, there was a general strike here. They wanted decent wages. They wanted some sort of parity with other cities. They wanted to live a life rather than struggle. And that was a massive struggle that they had, and a massive struggle against the government, because the government at the time sent up 50,000 armed troops. They sent for 6,000 police from Birmingham and Leeds to take control, because the police here in Liverpool said, we can't fight against our own people. There were 2 dockers shot dead by troops. Everything had stopped. Everything, from the dock workers, they stopped. Everything, railway, everything was stopped. And Churchill, he actually sent up 2 frigates to train its guns on the city, just in case, because they said we can't afford anarchy to spread out into the country. So we were on our own there, and unfortunately it was squashed. Did the workers get anything? No. They never achieved much, unfortunately, during that particular strike. So it was over by September. The strike was over.
What do you think of that?
Brilliant.
I thought it was very good. No.
You thought it was very good.
I was just kidding.
That's what I mean. You see, it's how you portrayed us. And the portrayal was fabulous. You know, you were showing fine buildings, you were showing the waterfront, as I said, and you gave an in-depth view of Liverpool and why we were against the establishment. And yeah, I did mention in the interview about the managed decline as well under Thatcher's government. So, you know, that all culminated in everything. And it's like the Second World War with the May Blitz. We were the most bombed city outside London, the most bombed city. And yet we hardly ever get a mention. And the likes of the Scharnhorst, the Graf Spee, and the Bismarck was actually tracked from here in Liverpool at the western approaches. And yet we never get mentioned about that. ever. And, you know, so it's things like that. It's like biasness in my opinion.
Yeah, and towards the end of that video, you also mentioned that there's so many things that have come out of Liverpool, but Liverpool doesn't really get any credit from. And I think it didn't make into the video, but I think you might have mentioned did you mention some sports famous athletes or something who were from Liverpool, but are only ever mentioned as Englishmen when they do well? And
well, it's like that Murray lads, you know, he's a Scottish lad, you know, the tennis player. And if he doesn't win Wimbledon, it's the Scottish player from you know, Murray, Andy Murray, the Scottish player. But if he wins Wimbledon, they go, oh yeah, the great British lad. So that's how he wears everything. Yeah. That's how the narrative is shocking in this country.
It's I guess you mentioned those people that come and film with a background of these of those. Yeah, I always because it's probably like they've obviously got this. Maybe already they have an agenda, or they've fallen for the stereotypes so much that when you come to a city, if you're in a city, a big city, you're going to, if you look hard enough, you're going to be able to find a spot that is run down or dirty or has a bit of crime. Every city is like that. But that has obviously played into, I mean, whether they actively sought out a place that looked run down for their story or whatever, it obviously is part of a cycle. Like the more people see that image of Liverpool, the more they'll get that in their heads. And then if a journalist who has that idea does come to Liverpool, that's what they're going to notice first, even though it's the same as any other.
Absolutely. You're so right there, because there's lots of examples. It's like when, you know, they go back to the 80s, you know, say like a documentary or whatever. They just go back to the 80s. And, you know, say like they're going to talk about the riots. It doesn't go to Bristol, where the riots actually started, or it doesn't go to London, where a police officer named Colin Blakelock had his head decapitated. It always starts off as the Toxteth riots, and it didn't start here. And that's the biasness you see coming out of the press, the media, anyone. And so you could easily come up and portray, you know, the opposite, if you know what I mean. But that opposite would be propaganda against Liverpool. And that's the way it is. But you showed a definitive film about Liverpool and the people and the history, part of the history, which is exceptional. And it's just absolutely amazing. It really is. And as Gary Rigby says, still a lot of prejudice and discrimination against Liverpool. You hear it all the time. Or we don't get mentioned on TV anymore. And DW says, I was addicted to Cords and Chains last year, Louisa and Toby now. I'll have to catch up on Tieran's channel. Bikepacking is appealing to me. Then, I mean, I think it's the modern equivalent of horseback. And there you go. And Dorothy says, I recall when Sam Neill was filming for Peaky Blinders, he remarked how stunning architecturally Liverpool is and a fascinating city. I actually met, I was on a walk with my people, and we were up in Rodney Street, and it was being filmed there. So anyway, we couldn't get through, so I didn't look like that. I said, oh, there's Sam Neill there. So I walked over to him, and I said, are you in this? And he said, yes. Haven't you seen it? And I went, no, never seen it. And he just said how Liverpool, it's only what Dorothy, you know, said, how stunningly beautiful Liverpool was, because he looked up like that, and there's the top of the cathedral, the Anglican cathedral, and he said, "It's so stunning here." And you filmed Georgian houses as well, which is fabulous. The way you did it, and I'm just absolutely delighted that you came on, so I could say a big, massive thank you.
It's so nice to, like, after so long, to reconnect with you, and after interviewing you, what, 3 years ago? 3 years ago now, 2.5. But just there are two comments there from, it was first DW. This is not related to Liverpool, but the back thing. It's funny that you mentioned that, because that's actually, I do sometimes think of that as it's the closest you can get, really, nowadays, to doing the old school properly traveling on horseback. And sometimes when you're coming into these really historic cities on a bicycle, you feel a sense of connection to the past in a way, because you're like, yeah, okay, I've got wheels and I've got, my phone and my camera, but I'm riding on a bicycle the same way into a city like Istanbul that people would have done on horseback 100 years ago, 200 years ago. And the other thing, I can't remember who the comment before that was about the discrimination against people from Liverpool. And obviously, when you look through, like, that video had an overwhelmingly positive response, but I get notifications of every single comment that I get on that video, and some of them are what Gary said, like pretty hateful comments. A very small minority, they are there, and they really, if anything, they kind of hammer home the point you were making about this unfair reputation. I sometimes wonder if those people have actually watched the video, because there's a point in the video where you mention a line that you've heard a few times, which is, if you go to Liverpool, they'll steal your hubcaps or something. And there's a couple of comments on that video of people who have said that, like, they've said, as if they haven't actually watched the video. They've probably just seen the title, Scouse Not English, got a bit triggered by it, and then decided to sort of throw a very stereotypical insult out there. But yeah, so there are those I noticed, and I was obviously very happy and very pleasantly surprised with how much it resonated with people. But it was pretty eye-opening as well to see the negative comments and just how deeply, triggered some people were, and how kind of hateful some of the comments could be from the people that were sort of angry with the message of the video.
That's lovely. That's a fantastic comment. It really is. And as DW says, this clip within the documentary here about the police, army and navy ganging up on Liverpool during the strike, that reminds me of a miners' strike. Many of the police and media practices that, and they do. But it's the way it is. It's how society, or how they view societies, unfortunately. Keep them there, keep them, hemmed in, and, we'll control them. And that's the way it is today. But unfortunately, the government's picked on the wrong people of Liverpool, because rather than just standing back and taking everything that they've thrown at us, we fight back. Not with violence, but we fight back nevertheless. And that's what Liverpool are all about. That's the world in one city. That's the world in one city. And I'm made up. So if you ever come up again and film, can I just show you something before you go, Tieran?
Yeah, of course.
It's only my guest. Remember when I said he's the only man ever to have 100 paintings, right? And these are absolutely wonderful. Just have a look at this. And this is in St. George's Hall, by the way. You know what we've seen.
Yeah. Whoa.
And what Anthony was commissioned to do, and he titled it 100 heads, 100 Liverpool heads thinking as one. And they've got everybody, from the Beatles right down to eye surgeons, to scientists, to entertainers, like the likes of actors. And it's absolutely brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. And I get a phone call off him, and he said, can I see you? I said, who are you? And he said, I want to see you. So I goes down to see him. And he said, I want to do a portrait of you. I said, what for me? Why? And it's the most humbling thing that's ever happened to me, by being chosen by this fantastic artist to be one of the 100 Liverpool heads thinking as one, with all these wonderful people who he did. Absolutely amazing. And that's it.
Wow. That's incredible. That must have taken quite some time, right, Anthony?
About 3.5 years.
Wow. Can we? Is which one? Can you tell which one's you, Frank, in there from this far out?
No, I'll just put a picture up of Brad Pitt and I'll pretend it's.
No, that's amazing. That is amazing.
There's me.
Oh wow.
There's
that's
me.
Cool.
It's uncanny, isn't it? Really, when. It's just amazing when he chose me, and as I say, it's.
We've never met Frank, and it was my mum who put us on to Frank. She said, "Check out this guy on the radio, historian." So I did, and then we lost my mum, but my mum was the reason I did the show. We did the show.
Okay.
100 heads, but we phoned Frank up. Lainey and I, my wife, because we used to listen to him in the little dugout. We had there's a beautiful building that is right in the centre of town called Hanover Galleries, and it had been closed for many years, about 6 years. And Barry Owen, the chap who was in charge of it, gave us the space, and we used to have our down brushes when Frank was on the radio. So we down brushes, have a cup of tea and listen. And we both decided, I've got to paint Frank. He's got to go to the front. So you can imagine when we phoned Radio Merseyside and said, we need to see Frank, because we're just on a mission. And the team at Radio Merseyside thought we were odd, so they weren't going to put me through to anyone. And then Frank gets this cryptic message and comes round just in time for the cup of tea, and the bottle of whiskey was opened. So we talked for about 4 hours, and then he became part of the show.
Well, it was a family, wasn't it, really? It was a sort of a family.
Yeah.
And, that's what the Liverpool people are. But a big family who stick up for one another. That's the way I view the citizens of Liverpool. And you, Tieran, have become a honorary Scouser.
Oh, wow.
Like yourself. Yeah. So there's many people like that who come to the city and either make it to home. Doctors, nurses, footballers. There's people, we all travel, and Frank's hometown field is in Italy, mine's in Scotland and New York, but we go somewhere in the world and you think, wow, this feels like home. And there's lots of people who come to Liverpool for that. And I think a big part of that is, as you're both discussing before, is that that feel of a cultural melting pot of people. it doesn't matter how much money you've got or how big the house or whatever. We're all here. We all do different things, and that was part of the show. 100 heads, all the same size, no one bigger, there's no one more important. And whether you're a filmmaker, physician, teacher, historian, and we all got along fairly good. Maybe a couple of cold shoulders, but other than that.
That's an amazing project to have done. When was it? When was that exhibition?
It was actually designed to run for the 800th birthday of Liverpool. So it was 2007.
Okay.
And when we got to 2007, I'm still working on it, and the culture bandwagon had moved in, which is a bit of a sore point with Frank and I and some others, in that Liverpool is a place full of talent, musicians, writers, artists, singers, dancers, and not many of them were invited to participate in the culture year. So we kind of turned our back on it. I was going for my wife and I were going for the 800th anniversary, which is 2007. So when we started, there was like such a positive response from the newspapers in the city and the radio, and people were very kind, that culture opened up and said they've got blank spaces in their diary, because they put a gridlock on every venue, so we couldn't have got in anywhere, and then we ended up working with them, and we did it, and it lasted through culture year and a bit further, and it was a privilege to do, a privilege to work on. You know yourself, you start a project and you don't really think of how long it's going to take.
Yeah.
Only a few years later, and you look back and you think, wow.
Or if you do have an idea of how long it's going to take, you can be sure it's going to take at least twice as long as that. I've never ever been on time with one of those series or
that's
anything.
the good thing about it, because it's not a job 9 to 5, and we've got to be in by 12th of May, and we've got to be gone by 1st. It kind of, it's organic, it grows, it does what it should,
Yeah, there's a level of spontaneity in that as well, with that when it's not so. I mean, I don't know. I'm not an artist myself, so I don't. But you must come up with, if you've got an unlimited time frame, ideas must come and go very spontaneously when they.
And I'm sure the same with you when you meet people, and they offer not so much a criticism, but a comment about something. Have you heard of this? Have you done that? And you think, okay, so it takes you off in a different direction.
Yeah.
We did a lot, we're working from it. And we never started out with a list of, and Frank very kindly describes it as a list of great Liverpudlians. And they're not all Scouse, but the people who work and operate Liverpool. And it wasn't a list of great Liverpudlians, although they are great people. It was a list of all walks of life, the first person. Yeah.
And you're right, and I think DW sums everything up. He says, wow, I've not been able to cope with all that negative commentary. I put up with it at a low level on various live chats. To be on a platform taking rotten fruit, respect to Tieran and Frank too, to be honest.
Absolutely.
Isn't that lovely?
Yeah.
Isn't that lovely?
That is wonderful. That's right.
I mean, you've got to. Yeah.
You've got, all I was going to say, you've got to work through the negative by doing something positive, and which is what you did. You know, and Frank does, whenever we're together, whether we're on here or whether we have a slight pint in a great pub in town. It's you know, negativity is always going to be there. It's always
negativity. You know, but what we try to do is bring out the positiveness. That's what I try to do.
Yeah.
I try to. I'm a historian, as you know, Tieran, and you mentioned, I was delighted that you mentioned about, you know, there was things that Liverpool don't get mentioned about, you know, like the first radio broadcast in the entire world, like the first X-ray, you know, you can't, like the first passenger railway system in the world, like the very first electrified overhead railway in the world, like the very first dock system in the entire world. These are all world firsts, and yet, you know, we're hardly mentioned for these extraordinary things. We had a tunnel that went under water, and it's still there today. It's a railway tunnel, and it was the first in the world to go underwater. They all came from all over the world to see how that was done. The Albert Dock, that you showed, you know, when you look at a different angle, I was on German television, I was on two Japanese different stations, you know, different channels, and I showed a lot of them, you know, on alternative days, a different angle, how you look at the Albert Dock. And what you're seeing is this massive complex of a building, one of the greatest engineering feats of the 19th century, in the middle of a river. And they go, wow, even I showed around astrophysicists one day, and I showed them that angle, and they were amazed. And these were astrophysicists. You see what I mean? So it's like everything else. You see Liverpool, they see Liverpool in a different light, just showing, or a building, just showing them from a different angle. And that's the way you showed Liverpool. And it was a different angle, and it was a different slant from what people around the country portray Liverpool as.
Which is, I suppose, in a way, is kind of, I didn't actually know that there wasn't much content like that online. You kind of assume it's Liverpool. So how is it that more people haven't made, you know, slightly more? I mean, there's a lot of stuff you can look online. You'll find like top 10 things to do in Liverpool. That portrays Liverpool from a touristic point of view well. When you see a video, it makes it seem like a fun place. But I was surprised that there was this kind of gap for, like you said, people who aren't from Liverpool documenting that kind of stuff. Yeah,
it's a wonderful objective voice. You know, we can be accused of, and we have been accused of whining on about the same thing, but it's wonderful to have an objective voice to say, this is what I see, you know. And the footage, like Frank had said, the footage was fantastic. Showed Liverpool in a totally different side, bright, sunny, aerial shots were amazing.
I wasn't actually in control of the sun, but the shots were mine. We were very lucky with the weather, actually, while we were generally on that trip as a whole.
Yeah, well, the same point is as well, what Anthony's just mentioned, you know, about the negativity. The former Prime Minister, Boris Johnson, He said, quote, Liverpool, the self-pity city, unquote.
Sounds like him.
It does sound like him, doesn't it?
It does.
It does.
Yeah. Who was he? I'll forget.
Boris Johnson.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, I've heard it.
It's and you know, and these are the people. You know, if you get a managed decline by a government, think about it, of a city, their own city in the UK. Let's say you had Theresa Gorman in 1992, and she said, "Let's build a wall around Liverpool to show future generations how people lived." Think about that.
I mean, that's what's when you see people now who say, I mean, they watch a video like that, or they just hear someone who feels Scouse rather than English, and they seem so shocked that it's almost like, what can you expect if there's a community that's going to be treated a certain way by a government and a press? I don't really see how you can then expect 100% of all those people to turn around and think, yeah, no, I'm proud to stand by that government and that press. It makes a lot of sense. I mean, I found this is it's interesting when you do this, but one of the things I found most interesting about doing this on a bike and traveling to all these places is you do see some common themes that are true across, like, globally. And one of them is that wherever there's some community that has been mistreated or misrepresented in some way, mistreated in some way, it tends to strengthen the regional or local identity of that place, because there's a sort of us against them feeling sometimes, and that makes people band together naturally. That's just what happens. So yeah, I always think it's interesting when I see these comments about some of the more negative ones, or just people who don't like the phrase, like Scouse, not English or something. I just wonder what it just does it. It makes sense. It makes so much sense that a community would develop a distinct identity in those circumstances, and it happens in other parts of the world as well.
Yeah.
Well, I've got to come in and say, not all Scousers. You get Scousers who are saying, "Yeah, I'm Scouse, but I'm English."
Yeah,
you do get that.
Yeah,
that's no problem, because people have opinions, albeit that they're different from other opinions. But that's how we differentiate here in Liverpool. It's not very adverse, against each other. It's just say, well, I'm English. You see what I mean? I support Italy only because of my family on my mother's side. I support Italy. Football. I'm a great football fan, and I support the Azzurro or the Azzurri. And our kid, he supports England. I said, what you support them for? Because I was born in England. But it's not great rivalry or such, if you know what I mean. And that's the way it is. That's the way it is, and what you think of it? I've got to read you this, Tieran, because this is you. Fully agree with that. Arriving slowly is to really arrive. To arrive by plane is to be planted. Traveling by pedal power is truly empowering.
So that's basically that. Funnily enough, I'm not at home. I'm not a keen cyclist at all. When I'm not on one of these trips, I actually had, when I was younger, I had a pretty bad bike accident, and it required quite a lot of. I smashed out my teeth. It messed up my. Basically, it required about 7 or 8 years of dental work to fix by the end of it. So it was a long process, and that put me off cycling for years and years and years and years. And the first proper cycle ride I did after that was that I flew my bike to Norway and then cycled to Azerbaijan. And that was the first series of this thing that is now my job somehow. And the reason that I kind of fell in love with cycle touring over cycling, even though I'm not a keen cyclist, is because, as was it DW, the guy that commented there, was you don't just, it's not just like a click and you get on a plane and then suddenly you're in your destination. There's this whole process getting to where you're trying to go, which is a rewarding feeling, but you also when you're on a bike, you kind of get a real feel for how things like geography shape culture, and you see slow changes between, I'm cycling from, say, Germany to Poland, but along the way you see these, like, if you were going by train, you're in Germany, you suddenly, and then you go into Poland, and the culture changes like that. But if you're doing it on a bike, you see it's like a spectrum. As you get closer to the border, you see the culture change a little bit, you see the food change a little bit, and then you cross the border and it changes a bit more until eventually it goes fully to the, more Polish end of the spectrum. And that's what's amazing about traveling on a bike, is this, you get to see the world in such a, you get to absorb it so much when you're traveling that slowly, and you're like totally immersed in it, rather than, being on a bus or a plane. And I don't think, the videos like that Liverpool video would have been, it would be possible, but I just learned so much more cycling around the city on a bicycle than I did from just, getting a car, driving there for a day, interviewing you, coming back.
Well, that's it. The thing is, you see, if you would have told someone, I'm not saying everybody, but, if you just said, I'm going to cycle around Liverpool filming, you get one of them saying, you'll get your bike stolen and your camera as well. That's that's the negativity of people. I'll tell you where you'd feel yourself at home in two places. One in Amsterdam and the other is China.
Really?
Yeah. They've all got bicycles over there.
That's true. Copenhagen as well. That's a very bike-friendly city. Although I find that it was almost overwhelming when I was there, because there's so many. I'm used to having the road totally to myself in these slightly off the beaten track places where not many people cycle to. And so when you're suddenly surrounded by 100 cyclists, it gets overwhelming.
Well, it would, wouldn't it? Really, whereas the likes of China, they've got massive wide roads and just loads of cyclists, going up and down. I think it'll be. Have you ever thought of what other country in Europe where you would love to, go for a cycle and film? Where is it?
In Europe?
Yeah, in Europe.
Funnily enough, it's probably at this stage Italy.
Do you know what I was going to suggest there? And do you know where to go? You would love this if you go down the Amalfi Coast. Yeah. It's incredible. The scenery is absolutely astonishing, because if you went, from Amalfi itself, Amalfi, the town of Amalfi, and pedals, you'll pass a lovely little town called Atrani. It's absolutely wonderful. But anyway, you're doing and if you make your way to a place called Pestum, you get in there and you've got not one, not two, but 3 temples that was built in 500 BC by the Greeks. And they're the finest examples of any temple in the world. I'm talking about ancient temples. And if you did that run and filmed it, I think you'd have about 20 million to 100 million views. I'm telling
Well,
you.
I mean, one of the reasons it interests me is I've never been to Italy full stop, bike or no bike, which is it's definitely on the list. I mean, I've obviously got this next trip in Japan and Korea and Taiwan, but after that, there's also I think Finland, Latvia, Lithuania, Estonia. Those are the two, Italy and then that trip through Finland and the Baltics. Those are probably the two that are gonna happen at some point in Europe.
We'll go in the summer to the Baltics, right?
Yeah. It's funny. I have actually cycled through. I mean, that trip that I met you on.
Yes.
We made it up to Shetland in December, so that was the end goal, Shetland, and we were there in December, and it was. And on the trip before, I was in Ukraine and Moldova and Poland in winter as well, and it was pretty brutal. But then at the same time, you get to see those places at a time that not that many tourists are there, and it's a time that not many tourists get to see those places, and there's different cultural events and stuff. So I think there's something to be said for cycle touring in the winter, even though it's pretty difficult.
Well, if you ever go to it, like if you do Italy, give me a call, and I can be your little bag man.
Absolutely.
I can hold your camera and your bags, your sandwiches, and everything, but I'll be on the tour bus.
You'll be my support vehicle.
That's right, I was. That's right. But it's absolutely fantastic. Listen, it's been absolutely wonderful, to have you on.
Thanks for having me on.
Can I show you a few buildings, because
of course.
I really appreciate it.
Because I didn't get to do the walking tour with you in Liverpool, so this
no.
The second opportunity.
Listen, if you're coming up to Liverpool, I know that you said
someday. I haven't got a plan, a specific plan, but I would really like to. Yeah, I really, really like the city. I think it's also, it sticks in my head as well because there's so many sort of. It was so eye-opening with all the stereotypes and stuff. But it would be after now knowing it as well, because I obviously came in last time having never been before. I learned a lot about it from you, but I hadn't done all my research for the episode yet. And now that I've got a bit more of a well-rounded view of the city, it would be great to go back with that. Because I'd probably see it.
Show you around. Me and Anthony will show you around because
that'd be great.
You've got to. It's not just a matter. Yeah. Not just a matter of looking at buildings. You've got to see why they're there and what's there as well. Because you look at a building and walk away. We have a building here in Rodney Street, and it's a face, and no one realises it's a face until I point it out, and they go, "Wow!" See what I mean? It's incredible. And that's St. George's Hall. I brought Prince Charles around there,
I remember you telling me that story. I think I've got that story in the because I mean that interview. I mean, I was at your flat for probably, I think it was about 2.5 hours or something in total, doing the sort of just getting chatting normally, and then also going into the interview. And I do vividly remember you telling that story. And did a very good King Charles impression, from what I remember.
Yeah. Oh yeah, because when I asked him if he wanted to cover tea, or if fancy go for a cup of tea, the situation's moved into I just cannot give another cup of tea, Frank. So I said, "Oh well, all right, I'm going. I'll see you later." I forgot his name and everything because something happened. You see, but look, that's inside the hall, and that's what I was showing them. The mitten tile floor. And there's the outside of it there. That's the Stebble Fountain. There's the Walker Gallery. These are fantastic. buildings, absolutely. See, the Walker Gallery and the Sessions House there, and you've got, look at the Sessions House, absolutely an amazing building. And there you have it all. And that round, see the round building there, the round roof, you know, the dome. Well, that was actually based, a fellow named Cornelius Sherlock designed that, because they all went over to Italy, they went to Greece, because it was all going to be neoclassical. And that's actually based on my favourite building of all time, the best building in the world, which is still utilised today in Rome, and it's called the Pantheon, which was actually designed by Emperor Hadrian. You know, wow. Emperor Hadrian, who built the wall, you know, the famous Hadrian's Wall. And, you know, so that it's a lot to digest, these wonderful buildings. And look at that. That's the entrance into the library. That's a Liverpool library. It's incredible inside. Look, I used to study there.
Really?
Little me, yeah. And just look, it's absolutely amazing. And that's the way Liverpool is. And this is one of my favourite buildings also. It's India Building. And India Building, they have emblems on. And they're Art Deco emblems. And it was built in 1931, that building, Art Deco. And Herbert Rouse, who designed it, he had these Art Deco liver birds on it. And if you think, you know, if you've seen it, they just look like the German eagle during the 30s. And some German people, you know, spies they were during the 30s, they seen that. They seen those birds. And they were going to make India Building, that one, into the Gestapo headquarters.
Oh my God.
Just because of those birds that are around. And people go, wow, you know, when I show them, say, these are the hidden gems of the beautiful building. And there, you know, that's the top of the building, India. And Herbert J. Rouse, as I mentioned, he put, and if you look at the very top, they're Roman villas. Roman villas, incredible. That's what I mean, what people miss out on. And that's the inside of it. That's the inside. They're shops. And you know, it's the only building in the whole of the country. You can't go in there now because it's a passport office. So it's all security, you know, especially with terrorism and people trying to get passports. But anyway, that particular walkway isn't a walkway as such. It's an actual street, and it's named Chorley Street. It's the only street, public pathway, undercover, in a building, Chorley Street. And it's unbelievable. And there it is. There it is. I just wish that I could show. That's Martin's Bank, by the way. That is Martin's Bank, an absolutely stunning building. And this is Liverpool architecture at its finest. And there, say Herbert J. Rouse, that's opposite India Building. And on top of that building, where you see the columns, where he put the Roman villas on top of India Building, he also put on this building Greek colonnade. You know, the Greek columns. So that's what, it's incredible. It's just, I just love our Liverpool architecture. And that's inside Martin's Bank. Look at it. Beautiful. Absolutely stunning. And that's our town hall. And the most famous people in all the world are stood on that balcony. From Charles Dickens, if you know what I mean, to Queen Victoria, to one of the Tsars, Nicholas, I forget who it was, I don't know whether it was the first or the second, but he stood on there. And Mark Twain, he stood there, and he said, wow, this is the business centre of Liverpool, Mark Twain said. Incredible, absolutely amazing. So they're buildings, and when you get football fans, they say, in your Liverpool slums. They're just, they're the away fans. And look at that. Just look, that's the reception of Liverpool Town Hall. Isn't it wonderful? If you ever want to do a tour with your camera, I'll do that for you.
Oh, amazing. Well, then I have to come back then, don't I?
Honestly, I'd show you things. Anthony would tell you that your jaw would just drop down there when I point things out. It's, I pointed a couple of things out that people don't realise. The likes of a Greek colonnade, the likes of Roman villas on top of a building. But there's so much more, and you just go, wow. Wow. Honestly. Am I right, Anthony?
Absolutely, Frank. Absolutely. Yeah.
It is. It's amazing. So if you ever want to do it, just let me know.
I absolutely will.
And you'd show Liverpool in a better light.
Yeah, I'll do a part 2.
Well, I'll tell you what, though. I was only just saying that in a better light because you've shown Liverpool in such a wonderful way that Anthony and I are absolutely delighted. And, I don't know, Daryl Merry, he says, Frank's your guy, he has been on Channel 5. Yeah, he's talking to you, I've been on Channel 5. I was only talking about Charles Dickens, when he came to Liverpool, and he loved Liverpool. Did you know that? He loved Liverpool. Absolutely loved it. And DW is actually, he's subscribed to your channel. And
amazing. Thank you.
He can't wait to look at your work.
Well, there's a lot there. I mean, the nice thing that Liverpool video is now, it's part of that big series now, and it's quite the idea was you could just sort of go to the first episode, click play, and then you follow this journey around the whole of the UK and Isle of Man and Ireland, and meet people like yourself along the way. So I hope he enjoys.
Oh well, that's what TW says, forget the first 3 letters, but he says, I want to go peddling now, I want to go. So, it's been great that, and TW asked you the question.
Oh, yeah. Well, so the first one, I had to do it for free to start with. My first trip, the one I mentioned where I had that accident, didn't cycle for a while and then just flew to Norway. There, I worked for a year and saved up. And then once you're actually on the bike, you can travel. It's a very, very, very cheap way to travel if you want it to be, if you're willing to sort of not have too many luxuries or whatever. And even then, like, I met so many people along the way who hosted me. I stayed with someone in Liverpool who hosted us for 5 days, I think 4 or 5 days, which was awesome. And but the first series, that one I did for free, and then after that, it's now my full-time job. So making these videos is my livelihood now, and that's how I fund it, because I've got this long-term collaboration with the Norwegian company TV2 Skole, that's TV2 School, or the student channel Elevkanalen is the other name, and then YouTube as well is the other half.
That's brilliant. That. So I mean, albeit that you're traveling everywhere and giving great documentaries, that's the way, and you're being funded without it coming out of your own pocket, which is fantastic.
Yeah, it's a bit of it doesn't feel real sometimes, but I'm slowly getting used to it now. It feels more real when I'm back at home. Yeah, that's also true. It didn't cost me anything. No petrol. You'd be amazed. I mean, think of all if I want to go from, I don't know, Berlin to Krakow, then it's going to take me a lot longer in time. But yeah, along the way, I mean, you're not paying for public transport, not paying for petrol. Your food intake does tend to go up quite a lot because you're just burning so many calories. It's insane how much you need to eat to keep your body functioning. But a lot of the time, I've got a tent as well and stuff. And now that it is my job, I don't have to sleep in the tent every night. I can get a hotel now and then.
I remember sleeping in a tent when I was a student. Went down to Torquay to work the season. And I gets down there, and the fella says, you go that way. And I said, okay. And it was night. I said, well, can you he said, no, I'm not going to Torquay. I'm going well out the way. He said, I'm sorry there. He said, you'll easily get a lift there. So I said, okay. And I had a little tent. And do you know where I put the tent? I wasn't going to go into any fields or anything, with all those mad animals.
Yeah.
I pitched the tent on a roundabout.
I mean, that's not the worst idea, though. If you're willing to, I've slept in some strange places on the. Sometimes you got no option. Like, you're stuck in the middle of nowhere or in the middle of a roundabout at night. You just you can't have too high standards.
No.
When you're doing that. And it's only one night, even a bad spot. It's one night. You get over it. Next day, you find somewhere better.
Yeah, of course. And when you finally come up here, I hope you're a millionaire.
Yeah. Well, I got to get one of those big history networks to get in touch. Still waiting. Yeah.
But anyway, if you ever come up, you can stay here.
Thank you very much.
And we go around filming all those. You'd love the buildings, They're fantastic, some of the things. And I mean it, honestly. I could show you a machine, right? I think that's all that I call it, a machine, because I haven't a clue about these nuclear scientists, where the atom was actually split.
Whoa.
By this thing. They're the things you don't hear about, because everything is American. No, it's not. And the very first moon landing, there was a Liverpool lad. It was a Liverpool lad who was working in NASA, and he actually put Scouse power. He scripted on one of the things, one of the panels, Scouse power. That lands on the moon with Buzz Aldrin and Neil Armstrong. You wouldn't believe it. I was told that by his nieces. Incredible. They were my students, you see. Anyway, I've got to leave it now. It's been fascinating, Tieran. I've been trying to get you for a long time.
Well, I do remember when we said goodbye after the interview, we mentioned doing this like 2 years ago, and then I think it's actually on me. I think I forgot to send you my email address.
Yeah.
So that's my bad, but I'm glad that we could finally do it.
Oh, fantastic! And before are you going away again this year? Did you say?
This year I'm going to be. I might take a holiday, but I'll the next project won't start until sort of February. This time next year, actually, March, April kind of time.
Would you do us a favour then? Would you
Depends
come
what
on?
Favourite? Yeah, no kidding.
Oh no! Would you come on again and tell me and Anthony?
Yeah.
The viewers and the people on the chat.
Yeah, of course.
Come on and tell us how everything is going to pan out. You've sorted everything, even if you have to have a visa. That's all sorted. And what you hope to film.
Yeah. Oh, definitely. I'd love to do that.
Brilliant.
Do that then.
Yep.
Well, just send the email to Jason.
Yep, will do. I'll remember to do it this time.
Please do it, and we'll have you on because it's been absolutely fascinating.
Thank you for having me. It's nice to meet you as well, Anthony, via cyberspace.
You, Tieran. It's really a pleasure to meet. Thank you.
That's okay. And I do have to say, I really have to say that, I mean, I very rarely get to hear from people that I make these videos. I love making these videos, but the feedback I normally get is a comment here, a comment there. So it means a lot to hear from, like, in person or as in person as we can be, to hear from people
no, absolutely, because as I said, I've been trying to get you for a very long time. And Jason, the producer, he does all that. He gets hold of the people for me. And I've had some fantastic people on here, really have. And I'm just absolutely delighted that you've finally made an appearance. It's been an eye-opener, really has. It's been wonderful just to, speak to the lad who did this wonderful work for the city of Liverpool. And just thank you. There's nothing more I can say. And Anthony as well. He's delighted. I can tell.
Also today, really, with the anniversary, so it's kind of special that you're on tonight.
Absolutely, because I've been grieving today, and you've opened me up now, and you brought a lot of comfort back to me, and I thank you very much. And that gentleman above you there, Anthony Brown, thank you so much, the pair of you. And I've just got to thank Gap Painting Services for sponsoring the Frank Carlyle Show. And if you're an NHS worker, and if you're an OAP, you get a special discount. So if you need anything done, get these lads in. These lads are amazing. They're fully insured. They're fully time served. Everything is done neat and tidy. They are in and they're out. And the job is first class. And I'm not just saying that because they sponsor the Frank Carlyle Show. The first class lads. And don't forget, if you're an NHS worker, special discount. If you're an OAP, special discount. But even if you're not, they're very reasonable. So if you've got a job and it's a bit too hard, get them in, let them do it. Don't take don't take the strain of pressure. Get them in, they'll sort it for you. And I've just got to thank Tieran. Thank you so much for appearing tonight.
Thanks for having me on.
I've got to thank the wonderful Anthony Brown, my good friend Anthony, for appearing again with me. And we come on every Monday and we just talk history, to be honest. And we have very special guests. And you're one of the special guests that we have. Thank you so much to you. And also, if you're out tomorrow night or you're in, stay in. watch the Liverpool podcast tomorrow night, people. And the most important thing is I've got to thank the wonderful Jason Pennington for producing the show, for getting all these pictures up for me.
Absolutely.
And next week, Anthony, we'll have to do your pictures, your top 10 pictures. I'm awfully sorry about tonight. But next week, is that all right with you?
That's good with me. It's good for you, Frank.
Absolutely. I can't wait to see your picked, actually. And also, the most important people is you out there, the wonderful viewers, listeners, wherever you are. Without you tuning in, there wouldn't be a Frank Carlyle Show. Thank you so much. And I'll see you all tomorrow night, all you football fans. And for all you history buffs, I'll see you next week. Mille grazie. Grazie mille. Thank you. Thank you.
Good night, guys.
Good night. Thank you.
Thank you. Good night now.